the lesson you're not supposed to learn. There's a strange tension in the phrase, "I shouldn't be teaching you this." It sounds like the start of a confession, a forbidden truth. It tells you that what's coming next isn't the kind of lesson you'll find in textbooks or motivational talks. It's the kind that feels dangerous to even say out loud. The kind that makes you feel like you've seen behind the curtain, and maybe you wish you hadn't. We live in a world obsessed with kindness, honesty, and virtue, at least on the surface. But behind every polished, public image, every politician's smile, every corporate mission statement, there's strategy, there's fear, there's the quiet art of control. That's the world Niccolò Machiavelli tried to describe 5 centuries ago, and that's exactly why his words still haunt us. He wasn't evil, he was honest. Brutally honest. This is Machiavelli's warning, and this video is the forbidden class on how power really works. It's not an encouragement to manipulate people or justify cruelty. It's a reminder that understanding power is the only way not to be crushed by it. As Machiavelli might say, it's better to know the rules of the game, even if they scare you, than to pretend the game doesn't exist. 1. The context. Who was Machiavelli really? Before we unpack the warning, we need to understand the man himself, because most people get Machiavelli completely wrong. Niccolò Machiavelli wasn't a villain plotting world domination. He wasn't a psychopath cheering for cruelty. He was a diplomat, a scholar, a man who had seen too much. Florence in his time was a chessboard of betrayal and ambition. Governments collapsed overnight, leaders were exiled, and loyalty had an expiration date. After being accused of conspiracy, Machiavelli was tortured, imprisoned, and banished. It was in exile, stripped of power, reputation, and safety, that he wrote The Prince. Imagine it. A man who had lost everything trying to understand how anyone holds on to power at all. His writings weren't sermons of evil. They were survival notes written from the ruins of idealism. But the world misunderstood him. The church banned his books. His name became synonymous with deceit. Machiavellian became an insult. Yet behind that stigma lies something powerful. A kind of manual for seeing human nature without filters. His warning wasn't be cruel, it was be real, or you'll be eaten alive by those who are. 2. The warning, what he was really trying to say. Machiavelli's warning is deceptively simple. Never mistake how people should act for how they actually do. That's where most leaders and most people fail. They build their lives, careers, and relationships on illusions of goodness, expecting honesty and gratitude in return. But Machiavelli reminds us that humans are inconsistent, emotional, and self-interested. They'll love you until loving you costs them something. He warns that idealism, while beautiful, is a dangerous luxury. The ruler, or any person trying to lead, persuade, or protect something valuable, cannot afford to rely on virtue alone. Morality doesn't stop betrayal. Kindness doesn't always prevent conflict. And pretending everyone plays fair doesn't make it true. Yet there's a deeper warning, one that most people miss. Once you start seeing the world clearly, you can't unsee it. Knowledge of power is corrupting not because it makes you evil, but because it makes you aware. You start noticing how manipulation hides behind kindness, how flattery replaces honesty, how fear controls crowds. It's heavy knowledge. And Machiavelli knew it would be misunderstood. That's why it feels like something you shouldn't be taught. 3. Human nature, the dangerous mirror. Machiavelli's view of human nature is one of the most uncomfortable mirrors we've ever been handed. He writes that people are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous. It's harsh. But look closely at the world, politics, workplaces, even friendships, and you'll start to see what he saw. People act in their own interest more often than not, and when survival or ambition is on the line, morals get blurry. That doesn't mean everyone is evil. It means we're wired for self-preservation. We like to think of ourselves as rational and kind, but in moments of pressure, emotion takes over. We justify, we twist, we compromise. And Machiavelli's point is that pretending otherwise doesn't make us noble, it makes us naive. His warning, then, isn't cynicism for cynicism's sake. It's about seeing humanity as it is so that you can make wiser choices. If you know people are self-interested, you stop expecting loyalty for free. If you know fear motivates more than reason, you learn to manage perception. You stop getting blindsided by betrayal. Not because you expect the worst, but because you finally see the whole picture. 4. The art of reputation and fear. If there's one concept that defines the prince, it's reputation. For Machiavelli, image isn't decoration, it's survival. A good ruler must appear virtuous, even if he sometimes acts otherwise. To the modern listener, that sounds hypocritical. But in Machiavelli's world, perception was reality. If people believe you are capable, strong, and decisive, they'll follow you. If they smell weakness, they'll turn on you. That's where fear enters the picture. His infamous line, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both," has been quoted by tyrants and misunderstood by moralists. What he meant wasn't be cruel, he meant be respected. Love is fickle, fear, when balanced with fairness, commands stability. A ruler who inspires respectful fear prevents chaos. A ruler who depends only on love invites rebellion. In our world, this logic still applies. Only now the battlefield is digital. Online reputations rise and fall overnight. Leaders, influencers, even ordinary people curate images to survive social scrutiny. Machiavelli's warning echoes louder than ever. Power depends not just on who you are, but on what people believe you are. Ignore that truth, and you lose the game before it begins. 5. Loyalty, trust, and control. Machiavelli wrote that loyalty is a transaction, not a virtue. It's given when convenient and withdrawn when costly. That might sound depressing, but think of every story of betrayal you've seen, in politics, business, even friendships. People stay loyal when they're rewarded, or when loyalty aligns with self-interest. Change those incentives, and allegiance evaporates. He warns rulers never to depend on love alone. The wise leader, or person, learns to build structures of control, clear incentives, fair punishments, visible strength. People need reasons to stay loyal beyond emotion. That's not manipulation, it's management. It's recognizing that people's hearts follow where their interests go. Yet here's the human tragedy. Once you start leading this way, you risk losing something of yourself. You start measuring relationships like transactions, and trust becomes a calculation. That's Machiavelli's hidden warning. The price of control is distance. You protect yourself, but you also isolate yourself. You become safe, but alone. 6. Ethics and the Machiavellian dilemma. The biggest misunderstanding about Machiavelli is that he was promoting evil. In reality, he was dissecting it. He wasn't saying the ends justify the means as a moral law. He was saying, in the real world, the ends often determine survival. He was observing, not prescribing. But the danger of such observation is that it tempts us to use it without conscience. The Machiavellian dilemma is this: how do you navigate a ruthless world without becoming ruthless yourself? How do you use power responsibly, knowing that kindness alone doesn't always protect you? That's the tightrope every leader, every parent, every person with influence must walk. Machiavelli's true warning is ethical, not strategic. It's that power changes you, subtly, inevitably. Once you start justifying small manipulations for the greater good, you might one day find yourself defending tyranny. His lesson isn't to reject power, but to understand its gravity, and never forget that humanity must anchor it. Modern parallels. Power in the age of perception. Machiavelli would have thrived, or despaired, in our era. Politics is more theatrical than ever. CEOs cultivate brand identities like monarchs once cultivated divine right. Social media is a 24/7 royal court, where public opinion can crown or destroy you. The tools of control have evolved, but the instincts remain ancient. In this world, the prince reads like prophecy. Reputation still shapes reality. Fear still moves crowds. And idealism, while beautiful, still gets punished when it ignores how systems really work. The modern prince isn't a monarch. It's anyone with followers, power, or influence, from presidents to YouTubers. Machiavelli's warning applies to all of us. Understand the forces shaping perception, or be shaped by them. Don't assume moral purity will save you in an environment built on optics, but, and this is crucial, don't let that realization harden you into cynicism. Awareness is not the same as manipulation. Power, understood wisely, can protect as much as it corrupts. 8. The forbidden lesson, knowledge with consequences. So why does this lesson feel like something we shouldn't be taught? Because it ruins the comfort of innocence. Once you see the machinery of power, you stop believing in fairy tales, about politics, about relationships, about human motives. That's liberating, but it's also isolating. It forces you to grow up. Machiavelli's forbidden knowledge is really a form of radical realism. It's not evil, it's clarity. But clarity comes with responsibility. When you understand how easily people can be led, you must decide whether to lead them with empathy or exploit them for gain. When you see how appearances manipulate truth, you must choose whether to craft illusions or break them. That's why the phrase, "I shouldn't be teaching you this," hits so hard. It acknowledges that truth is dangerous. Once learned, it can't be unlearned. It changes how you move, how you think, and who you trust. And maybe that's Machiavelli's real warning, not about others, but about ourselves. Conclusion: the choice you now have. You've now heard the lesson you weren't supposed to. The one that separates innocence from awareness. The one Machiavelli spent his life trying to share, and the world spent centuries trying to suppress. It's not a call to be cruel. It's a plea to stop being blind. Machiavelli's warning isn't about corruption, it's about clarity. If you ignore how power really works, you will be ruled by those who don't. If you learn how it works, you must decide what to do with that power. To use it for protection or manipulation, for truth or deception. And that's the final paradox. Understanding power doesn't make you bad, it makes you responsible. You now hold knowledge that can free or corrupt, defend or destroy. As Machiavelli might say, "I shouldn't be teaching you this, but here we are, the rest is up to you."